I'll tell you. And
It's
we're
like
in
licking
session.
their front door. I mean.
Call the regular council meeting at City Hall to order this May 1st, 2018 at 7 p.m. I'd like to remind everyone that if you have any comments, those are used during citizens' comments, so I'd ask that you be quiet throughout the meeting unless we ask you to speak, otherwise we'll ask you to leave. Additions to the agenda. Executive session, 5 minutes to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. Entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second by Bryant and Christie to approve the executive session, 5 minutes to discuss personnel matters and non-elected personnel addition to the agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? 3-1. Agenda. Moving on to citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments this evening? Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. Approved minutes, regular council meeting, April 17th, 2018. Also appropriation ordinance 05118 in the amount of $62,675.19. Petty cash $258.01. Entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second, Bryant and Christie. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Carries 3-1. Jim. Okay, audit report from Von Feltbauer and Von Felt Charter.
He just called, they had a family emergency, so we're gonna reschedule, the 15th.
Okay.
He, is gonna be in a different county. He said, he could possibly phone in, or if you guys are willing, we can wait till June 5th. And he apologized, but it's his mom, so I told him around here, family comes first, so.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Not to worry. So I can just let him know either way.
What do
Excuse
you,
me, either way.
what do you recommend?
I mean, if you want him here in person, wait till the 5th. If you guys don't mind if it's on the phone, I mean.
I like in person better myself. What's anybody else?
If it can wait, I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Consensus to have him come in person on June 5th. Okay. Department head and committee reports. Grant Administrator Lisa Cornwell.
Sid Arkham was out this week on Safe Routes to School, and we walked around and drove around and talked about where the sidewalks should be, and he's gonna put a plan together, bring it to the council middle of June. We talked about going ahead and bringing the sidewalk on down First Street on down to Main Street, connecting the Monroe on up to the school, and then either going down 5th or 4th Street to pick up the kids on that end of town, and on down Broadway to pick up the kids at that end of town. And when you watch the kids walk, the natural way they walk is 5th Street, and then they come over. We visited about, and I don't know if any of you have an opinion, we visited about, there's not a lot of people there to watch those kids, and maybe 4th Street's the better walking area, bringing them into town and then to school. I don't know, does anybody have an opinion on that?
There's a sidewalk on each side of 4th Street. Is there any way that Grant could pay to replace one
Well,
of
that's
those?
what it would do.
So
Yeah,
I'd
they're
say-
cruddy sidewalks, both of them.
I was one of those kids that used it.
Yeah.
And I lived on 5th, but
Uh-huh.
I would say, my opinion is 4th Street. Let's fix what we have there now instead of tearing into another street and yards and leaving these two sidewalks on the other street. That's my opinion on it.
I think the reason why they really use 5th Street a lot is because it's not as busy as 4th. I mean, I think that's the only reason why they walk that way,
I
but,
thought maybe they came out of the school there
and just follow.
and then just
Yeah.
followed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that we could reroute. We're doing safety
Sure.
with them right now.
Sure.
Balls rolling out in the street and walking across.
I
them.
kind of follow that idea with replacing kind of what's there. you know.
Yeah.
Some people don't like you tearing up the yard to put a new sidewalk in,
Right.
they'd rather replace what we have.
Sometimes they don't like you to replace what they have
Oh.
either.
Can't please everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there's a AARP grant, which I could apply for, that we could finish the sidewalk to nowhere I talked with Casey Axman about that. She's still willing to give a right of way. Her dad's gonna put up a fence there, but she's still willing to give a right of way to pull that on into Dollar General. I don't know what kind of chance that AARP grant is. It's due the end of May. I think it comes, awards in October. It'll be about a they pay 100%. It's about a $20,000 to $30,000 project, according to Sid. I need to go out and measure it and then get Chris to give me a bid. Is that something you're interested in?
Council think about having Lisa look into that.
Sure, I would say yes.
Did you say Axman's, you said Axman's would they let you put it on
On the
their-
other side of their driveway.
So it'd follow that pole line.
Is
Jeff.
it something they'd let you do, or would it be an easement?
No, it's something they'd give an easement to the city. There's not one there.
So they would do an easement.
The city lines are all goofed up over there.
Because I talked to the owners from Dotson's place right there on the corner, and they said they'd let us run it through there, but they wouldn't do an easement. But they'd let us run it through there.
So this would
I'd
be.
say if you can find a grant that would do 100%, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Because right now we're seeing the elderly go around the highway like on wheelchairs. I've seen a couple from Kenwood where they have to go around, and I think it'd be great to do something, definitely.
When you guys did that project, Lisa and I communicated a little bit. Was there anything about, I don't know how to say this correct, like, there wasn't anything like stating that the city couldn't do something for particularly one business, since it's
Well, it
on
was
the
with
way?
that grant, I believe.
Okay.
With that grant, you couldn't take the sidewalk all the way up to just one business, so that's why they had to end it where they ended it, is my understanding of it.
And that's what we were told on that.
But I think we could go back in with an additional project to add to, is what I think we could do.
Yeah, the project was originally sold to us on the fact that it would go directly to Dollar General, then that
And
thing came up, yeah.
The fine print said,
Right.
at the end of it, said, sorry, you can't go
Yeah,
to one
exactly.
specific business. But
Okay.
where this is a different deal, linking up different,
Right.
if that's irons out. Everybody okay with letting Lisa look into that?
Jeff, do you see a problem with running it through that
I was even
area?
gonna recommend, that if push come to shove, we could put that underground, tear that down.
Primary.
I mean, that's another option. The Methodist Church is primary. I've got a riser coming down that junction pole that feeds the Methodist Church, but it's all underground. And there's no reason that we couldn't put a cabinet there and bury underground up to Dollar General. I mean, as far as that goes. If the council wanted to, and there's gonna be some expense involved, just like there is with a grocery store or anything else. But if you want to clean that all up, why?
Where's the end of the line there? Is it just feeding 96 Ag or Bob Toot or
On that one, it feeds 96 Ag, yeah, it stops at 96 Ag.
96 Ag?
Didn't we find out that those poles though were off the easement or something? We had that survey.
I'm not really sure how that lays out, John. I think they are. I think they're off to the east side, is that right?
I don't remember. That was so many years ago, I think.
Because the sewer line that goes down there and the water line lay to the east of that pole line, and basically they were along the west side of Dotson's. But I'm not sure, I can't really tell you. We had that surveyed once, a long time ago, and it seems like the easement sets east of where the pole line is.
So we could just fix everything.
But also by the way that was laid out up there, why, if you went by properties, the air conditioning and everything on the back of the building sits in the middle of the easement. All the duct work, all that stuff, so. I don't really know.
I just remember it being an issue when we.
Yeah, because we had it surveyed for that reason.
I guess I don't see a problem with looking into it. I hate to commit to it yet until we know how much we're gonna have to pay for it, but.
As far as the sidewalk goes, we don't pay anything if it's 100%.
Oh,
I mean,
But as far as doing the pole work and all
Right,
that,
I can't
that's
change the
separate.
south end of the pole line because it feeds up the highway, without taking quite a bit of it out. That's the middle of a feeder circuit that goes, well, eventually it goes to the grocery store, is where it goes.
Well, my main thing is just making sure we have an easement for the whole deal. So if they are willing to do an easement, that'd be great. If not, could it be a deal where we somehow got an easement from the state somehow? Because we could keep running it east to where we got to the state ditch.
State doesn't give easements.
They don't do it all?
No, not for that. No, they don't.
What's council think?
Well, definitely, we need to do something, I think, because
Right, I think
I've
if
seen
you've got a
elderly
grant that's
people go
gonna-
around.
I mean, I don't know what our
100%.
chance is.
Well, but I
And you
mean,
know, if we receive it, then I can bring it to the council and you can decide if you want to accept it or not.
right. Council think?
That's fine, yeah.
I agree.
Good.
That'd be fine.
Jim?
You know.
Okay.
What about the safe routes to school? Is that 100% also?
No, it's 80/20.
80/20? Okay.
And one thing with that, Ashley came in today, and they were asking about the safe routes to school and the 5th Street, I believe. I didn't know if you maybe had some time to communicate,
With Ashley.
With
and Carla?
Ashley.
Okay.
just to update them
Okay,
maybe on
I'll
where
stop
we're
by over
at.
there and visit with them.
Because I just didn't feel comfortable giving them the information since you've been heading everything and I wasn't too
That's
involved
fine.
with
I'll
that
stop by.
meeting.
Are we not creating a problem where none exists? Kids have been walking to school in St. John when there were 3 times as many kids in the school as there are now, and they got to school then. Are we not creating a problem that doesn't exist?
We have bad sidewalks. You walk around town, Jim.
Oh, I know.
They're cracked, I mean, we need to replace sidewalks, so if we can pay 80/20
Isn't that the
instead of
first, isn't that
100%.
property owner's problem?
It's supposed to be, but they don't maintain them.
I can't see them ever maintaining that, putting money into some of them.
Well, the other thing is that.
So when did it become a public problem if the property owner doesn't take care of it?
There's an ordinance for it, but we don't enforce it.
No, we have an ordinance, so
Yeah.
if you don't enforce the ordinance, why get into it?
The only time I've ever seen the city enforce an ordinance like that was Lawrence, and just recently. It's been in the news a lot. I haven't seen any public outcry, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that can't afford to maintain a sidewalk.
Well, that's expensive.
I mean, if there's gonna be a grant out there that pays for it 100%,
If a grant pays for it 100%,
somebody's
have a
getting the
problem.
grant, and I'd rather it be St. John. That's one way of looking at it too.
Lisa, it's okay to go ahead and look for the 100% out there by Dollar General.
Alrighty.
Anything else for Lisa?
Oh, Lisa, have you looked into that housing grant at all, affordable housing?
I haven't found anything on the medium at this point,
Okay.
but it's still on my search list.
Alrighty.
Thank you, Lisa, we appreciate it. Moving on, Police Chief Adam Saylor.
I've got a couple things I actually just discussed with Lisa. The Department of Justice and the Community Oriented Policing Services does a hiring grant every year nationwide. So in, looking forward to the possibility of hiring our 4th officer and stuff like that, as soon as that comes open, I'm going to take a look into that. Historically, it's provided up to, I believe, $150,000 per officer that can be used for salary, training, equipment, and that kind of thing. And law enforcement benefits from free grant assistance, so if it's something that I, can look at it and take on myself with the assistance, I'll do that, otherwise I'll solicit her help and expertise. So we'll be looking at that. Usually it's advertised by May 1st, but it hadn't been done when I looked at it today. And then we're still seeing pretty good compliance with the junk vehicles. Some of our other investigations have taken us away from hitting that as hard as we were, but we're still seeing compliance on that, going to keep working on it. And there's some other properties that have been addressed that have started cleaning some stuff up too. So
Very good.
on that front, it's looking pretty good.
What else for Adam?
junk vehicles, there's a front page of the paper, St. John paper, 2-3 weeks ago, wasn't the Heart Association was picking them up free, gratis, on junk vehicles? It's on the front page of the paper,
I didn't read that.
right underneath the headlines on the paper.
I hadn't seen that either.
So I think it was a Heart Association, and they're a donator. You just donate the vehicle to
Okay,
them,
yep.
they pick them up and they haul them off for salvage or
There's
whatever.
the Heart Association, there's the NRA was doing, there's several government entities that do that.
Yep.
I don't,
Public
Mark, were you
radio.
one that talked to one of them that,
I talked with Cars for Veterans, and
Yeah.
we're out of their pickup range. I don't know if that's the case with the HART or the NRA, but I know with them it was, so it might be something to look into just in case. But I think it's a great idea. If people can take advantage of it, then they should.
Yeah, because you get tax donation.
Right.
You donate it, you get tax advantage, and somebody picks up the junk from that.
did that particular one state whether or not they had to have a
And
title?
Flossing doesn't make any money.
Anyway. Jim, was that in St. John paper or was it another different paper?
It was in St. John paper.
Okay.
Front page
I
St.
don't see
John.
why they would advertise if they don't pick up here, so.
Anything else for Adam? Thank you, Chief. Fire Chief Sanders.
The only thing I have is we'd like to put Preston Nemick on the fire department.
I believe you have the authority to do that.
Yeah, it's gotta go through you though.
I thought the last time when John said with fire department, we don't have to, do we have to have that?
Well, they've gotta be appointed by the mayor.
Because they're a paid volunteer, right?
I think it has to be appointed by the mayor. I think I make the recommendation to you and
Okay.
you appoint it.
Okay, and then we would have to have.
I believe that's how it reads in the code.
That's what it says, that's what we'll do.
That's what we've done in the past.
Right.
So you're making a recommendation?
I'm making the recommendation.
Okay, and that's for
Preston Nemick,
Preston?
yes. That's all I have.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to allow Preston Nemick to join the department, fire department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ryan and Christie. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? 3-1.
And we do have two, I think at least two more people, maybe three that might be interested, so.
Very good.
Good.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's good.
Yep.
Anything else, guys? Okay. City Clerk Jamie Getty. Behave yourself.
Okay. I'll start with the things I didn't put on the list. We had a citizen come in. She has had a payment agreement since 2007, I believe. And we're still looking at close to $10,000 behind. I don't know who, what, where, when, why, how any of this got set up, but I was not here, so I'm bringing it to you guys. If you want me to make the decision, I will. In the past, I believe it was just set up where she paid a flat $650 a month. Since then, there's been several people not living at the property. There's only two, and they're both disabled. I think she said they're both disabled, maybe. So she is requesting us to relook at that. Pam and I did a little bit of research, and I communicated with Pam as she's been more involved with the consumer. Pam's biggest recommendation at this time is to make sure her current bill is paid in full every month, because we run
From here on
into.
out, the-
Correct.
whatever she
Well,
generates now will be plus whatever the back payment. Because it wouldn't be current. I get what you're saying.
So what? She's consuming more than the $650 a month, and they added up to 10,000, or we got a huge bill.
Back in
Is it
2000,
okay Customer's name.
Well, they're not subject to open records. I mean, for something like this, I don't think you can do it without discussing who it is.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to say it out loud, but you can
Okay.
pass it around.
Well, this was made on March 16th of 2007 is the agreement, and the bill was $16,607
So it allowed to accumulate up to $16,000.
when they made the agreement in '07. And now it is down to
That's not, it's a little under
Do you see that?
a little under $10,000 as of March 30th.
This person's paying how much per month?
Well,
Supposed to be
supposed to
that.
be paying $650, and we've been having some issues.
$650?
Bring
Yeah.
back your own.
Is it a business or an individual?
Person, resident.
What's her monthly consumption? And what was kind of average?
Her average
payments.
is
Yeah.
over $200 a month.
You know, looks
For
pretty,
her
pretty
bill is
consistent.
over, an average of over $200
So
a
if
month.
she stayed with the 650 plus, she would be paying her current bill
It
plus
fluctuates so much, that's what I was trying to say, was that it fluctuates so much between like summer and winter. We have run into the problem where what she's paying isn't even covering
the
her
bill.
current.
Oh, well.
So it needs to be revisited.
She's a bill larger than $650.
She has. Or.
Is it my house? Because it averages more than that.
Yeah. So, our suggestion in this office is to make sure she's paying the bill coming in, the current bill, plus whatever you guys want paid on the extra.
Was there a reason that
Right,
it
Jim?
was at, like, why did it jump
Get your math
thousands of
going.
dollars?
Get your math going.
I graduated high school in 2007. I have no idea why that was at $16,000.
I don't know, we don't know how it got
Yeah,
to that.
this was a big
without-
problem when I first started.
Yeah.
And that's when they put in the new policy.
Well, and I
about-
think from my understanding, I think there were several larger accounts. We've gotten most of them, we've gotten a few of them paid down. This is still one of the largest that we're dealing with.
I'd say 90% of those are not even close to $600,
Yeah.
probably 300.
Okay, I'll bring it back to you. And when it started, it was to pay 200 at the time of the agreement, and then 250 every month after that.
But that would just be on the arrearage amount. So,
Right, and then continuing on.
at the very least, it sounds like the agreement would have been to pay the current bill plus at least $250,
Right,
whatever that number is.
right.
If she's not paying the current bill, then I'd say the first time that happens, you guys can go through your process.
Is something that we can't just shut them off because they're maybe handicapped, is that the reason?
No, this one I've just kind of let Pam deal with because she's had that relationship and she's worked with her and she's always seen the payment, like the way that we're looking at it is we're at least getting what she can. So,
Is this a household or rentals or
that's a household.
household?
2 people in there.
Now, I believe there was several before.
Gotcha.
So, but that's been since October, and that's why she wants this reevaluated, is because they're not consuming as much. Which it's gone down a little, but not drastically.
We at least need to be hitting that
I
cliff.
think they're gonna be taking advantage, be worse off than what they are right now.
They need to be at least paying the current bill plus
Wasn't
whatever
the
you
agreement,
guys
the
think.
agreement right there says 200, am I reading that right? There's
It
200 on
was
top of this?
200 additionally, and then 250 every month thereafter. To start the agreement, they started with 200,
200,
and
and
then
then
every month after that, it would have been the 250.
Just 250?
I can't imagine it's anything but 250
Well,
plus.
it would have to be in addition to the
It would
current,
be
but it
completely
doesn't state
unreasonable to say
there.
it otherwise.
Right.
And I don't know where it came to 650.
So her deal is she can't afford the 650 that she's putting in it.
What, for if you do 250 a month principal payment for 5 years, you've got just about half it paid off, so you're looking at a 5-year payout plus.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, your alternative is to either be in the, give charity and know you're giving charity, or unplug her. So take your pick.
My opinion is to have them pay their bill on top of the 250 that was agreed on at one point. So I'd say those two and keep them on.
Otherwise,
Until
we're
they
unplug
don't-
them.
I mean, cause this,
I just don't see how she's gonna do that.
I don't see how the bill got that large in the first
I
place.
don't, yeah, well, that's back in 2007.
That's an oops on whoever was here in
I don't know what
2007.
where to start out as.
I mean, it
Or
is.
16,000.
16,000 seems like that was going on.
Years.
What's council?
$6,000.
Well, they need to keep their current bill current, you know.
Well, if they don't keep the bill current,
Mm.
then this is null. But, I agree to pay my current bill in full by the 15th of the month in which it is received is scratched out. It is.
May I remind you I wasn't here?
What kind of process do we have to even go through with that? You know, is it just basically just send Jeff over there, shut the power off and writing it off or what?
The last thing we talked about this, it was kind of decided, it's my recollection, that you honor the agreement, but, and not this individual, whoever, the bunch of people we were talking about at that time. But if the agreement is to pay $250 a month, the only way you can interpret that is $250 on that debt, and then plus your current bill, and then if it's not happening, I mean, I say you apply whatever you receive that's below, if she's paying less than 250, you pay that, you apply that to the debt, you know, debt pays first, and then her bill's not current bill's not current, and you go through that process. I mean, what she should pay each month should be the current plus the 250. If that's not met, then you go through the ordinance process, and then there's, you know, appeal process that just people who keep their lights on or whatever for 10 more days if they go through the appeal process.
Yeah, we're sitting at 9,400 right now, almost 9,500.
So 3-year payout, principal only.
The last 4 months have been 397, 422.
I mean, judgment interest is 5 3/4, so if she's using it as a credit.
The payment's been ranging from upper 300s to
600.
upper or mid 600s. So she's been paying 300 something, 400 something, 500, 600 something the last couple of months here.
Those are those.
That's the bill. Or that's how much the bill was. Okay, that's how much the bill was.
I
Something wrong.
hate to do it, but I should keep giving her chances. It's just gonna keep taking advantage of the city. I just-
It's not gonna change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan, I hate to do it, but, yeah.
We gotta get the bill current.
Yeah.
And they need to pay their payment agreement. And just like that, when she brings a check, 250 goes towards the debt, the rest goes towards the bill. If the bill isn't current by that point, by shut-off time, they gotta go shut it off. And they gotta go through the process to.
Do you want me to
get it
help
turned
you with
back
a
on.
letter or something, maybe? I mean, I think it just needs to be put in writing and then probably attached to it.
Guys, please, we're trying to have discussion up here. This is serious, this is someone's life. Thank you.
And I'd send her a copy of the ordinance.
I mean, the agreement's right there.
Right, I mean-
She signed it.
Yeah, she's gotta pay it.
Well, and I don't know how many times it's changed throughout, like, because I mean, we're talking, it's all,
Yeah,
you know, I just don't know. And that's why I'm bringing it to
3
you
and a half,
because
2.5, 3 pages. worth
I don't
of
know
stuff.
what's been done. I don't know.
It's a council thing. Get the bill current every month, plus the debt payment.
I hate to say it, but yes.
Need a motion on that?
No, I don't.
Nope, it's just policy.
What did you say? Keeping the bill current?
They gotta get the bill and keep the bill current plus their debt payment. And if they get shut off, they get shut off, and we have to go through the process of getting the bill current and getting them back online.
Okay, so
Right.
you want them to pay their current bill
Plus 250.
plus $250.
Because that's what
Okay.
the agreement says, $250.
Okay.
So she brings you a check for $300, $250 goes to the debt, $50 goes on the bill. If she's at shut-off time, past due, with that amount, she's gonna have to come back in and get turned back on. And we just have to go through the process to get this back online and taken care of. Is that what everybody thinks?
Yeah, I just wouldn't give that person anymore.
We've got to need more chances.
Well, I mean, if that ain't gonna work, then that's it.
I mean, we just have to go through that process.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, because you have to hold everybody to the same standard, because everybody else that's out there keeping their bill current, it's not fair to them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
guys are the decision makers, I'm just the worker.
We reflect that in minutes.
After they get to 60, yeah.
That's
I think
my
it
big
was,
question.
something happened.
Is that all on computer that we can go back and look at that, or is from the time that?
I don't know when
with the
I went to
system?
computers. Yeah.
Well, with that program.
I doubt it. I
Okay.
doubt they
Well,
had,
did you look into it? to see
yeah,
if we
I
can
doubt
look
they
back
had
that far?
CIC in 2007. but-
Okay. What else?
So collections. We currently use Kansas Set Off. I've been in communications with a separate collection opportunity, I guess. They do charge, and John, I might have to have you help me on the I don't know if our ordinance states like the actual percentage, or if it just says that we will charge the percentage that we get charged to collect the money. So basically, I'm looking at changing our collection agency. They still use Kansas Set Off, but this program allows, or this company can use different avenues of collecting the money. It's not just waiting for someone to file their taxes and hope that we're first on the list and get the money. So, I don't know if you guys need to approve that, or if that's something that you want
I
me
think there's they'll end up making you sign a contract.
to.
You just gotta be careful, because one of the scams going around in these companies that get people to pay them and then they disappear. They didn't forward money to collect.
This is my, I mean, I'm not
What
saying it's
percentage are they charging to collect?
It's 30%, and we currently do 25 with Kansas Set Off, and that's only them. They collect from the tax return, and then they continue collection process once told to cease communications.
And
With-
what are we collecting? Utilities only?
I don't know if we have any court.
What bills are we collecting?
We have right now $42,359.21 out on our set off program.
That was a lot of utilities that went in.
I believe
Utilities?
so.
And these are still consumers of utilities?
I don't believe that,
Or have they left town?
I believe most of them have left town.
See what, a 2005 there? Ranging from 2005 up. That's what I see. 2000.
I see one 2005, but most of
Most
it's.
of them are 11, 14, 17, in the last couple of years. What's council's thoughts?
Unless they've left town, and you can't shut off their utilities, you're just about out of stroke. So I think you're sending good money after bad.
They get
Probably
charged.
just write it off.
They get charged the fee. We're not spending money. Like they get the fee.
They get
assessed.
30% if they collect it.
Yeah, but I'd have to
25.
look at the contract and how those work. Sometimes though, those fees and costs are passed on to the person they're trying to collect from. But I mean, it's a slow, long process, and you just hope they get a job. file state income tax.
Are you changing companies for a reason?
Yeah, they offer more services.
More avenues to get the
They have
money
Guido
collected.
that works for them.
Excuse me?
Guido works for them.
Okay.
There's not very much you're going to do.
Does council want Jamie to continue with the current process or look into other processes here and allow her to get some
I would
contracts
consider-
drawn up?
I would vote for continue the current.
Set it off program is a state-run program, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
They keep 25%.
This company that I'm looking at, they send letters,
Stick with
they
what
do
we've
call
got.
centers,
That's my opinion.
collect means through garnishments.
It's like hiring an attorney to do the collection.
Yeah. For 5% more.
You're,
than what we're
you're,
doing.
set it off as just going to send a letter from tax season and say, oh, by the way, you're not getting your tax refund you thought
Right.
you were gonna get. You can challenge this by doing this, and then that's it. They don't make any other efforts to. But at the same time, I'm not sure what you're gonna garnish if they're not paying state income tax.
This other company offers more services, Jamie.
More avenues to get the money collected.
Okay.
Harassment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There aren't many avenues in all realistic, in
Right.
the real world. You either
I mean, I'd consider this if it was something where it's like guaranteed it won't cost us anything.
I'll have John look over the,
Yeah, there's only so much that you can pass on to the consumer. I don't know.
and I
about-
tried to find it in our ordinance, but
I mean, is there something that made you wanna look for another collection, or you just ran across this?
well, our collections amount is $42,000,
So you
so,
looked into it?
yeah.
Looking for other ways to get it cleaned up.
The one thing about the set off bar is you might not know somebody has died, and so you may miss an opportunity to file a claim in an estate or something like that. And I don't know if this program will allow you to, would keep track of something like that.
From my understanding, they still are able to use the Kansas tax return and go through that avenue, but I don't know about anything with the,
That's my main thing, is as they're looking through this whole list of people, I don't wanna get charged a certain percentage for people that they'll probably never get it from or that are deceased. So that's where I'm at, as far as what it could cost us. I mean, I like that you looked into that, and it looks like they do have different avenues to harassment to try to get it, and it would be nice to even get 15,000 out of that 40-some. So I mean,
See how that's-
if John can maybe look into it with Jamie, I think, or if it ain't gonna cost us anything, or maybe cost us a little bit, I think I'd consider it.
Did you say how much it's been changing over the last few years? Very much the debt that they've been getting, making any headway on it, you think? or-
they have had 14 paid off.
I mean, it's kind of one of those squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. And people, if they owe people money, they're gonna pay off the people that most annoy them.
And with the Kansas set off, like,
That's just how it
you're,
is.
with the Kansas set off,
People
you're
have
put on the
the most
list,
growth.
and
They're
then
gonna,
you
they're
five
gonna, they're gonna
before
hope
you.
you've forgotten.
So you can be stuck on that list and you're not gonna get the money until everyone else is paid off.
Okay.
So, just an option.
Stick with it or have Jamie work with John to kind of look into some other possibilities.
I would almost look into it, if we're not making much headway, if there's some other routes we could take, and, you know.
So never mind me if you
It ain't
can
gonna
find
cost us
something a little better.
$500, is it, John? For you to look into it?
I don't know what she's looking at to begin with. We'll talk about that when we talk about water rights here.
I think that John should look at it with her in the next meeting. We can decide.
It costs us a lot, there's maybe.
Collections Bureau of Kansas out of Topeka. I think it's out of
Okay, as I
Topeka.
say, as long as it stays in the state.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not like a random company that I found.
What else, Jamie?
I got some bids for the audit, budget season coming up.
Okay.
I got a bid back from Adams, Brown, Barron and Ball then, from our current Von Felt, Bauer and Von Felt, they're 3-year bids. So Adams, Brown, Barron and Ball is going to be, $10,000 for 18, 10,300 for 19, 10,600 for 20. The fees for providing training and review of the 19 budget will be billed at our standard hourly rates, not to exceed $1,500. You all know, like, I used to work there, so my relationship with Melissa, I asked her when I talked to her and Nicole about this was, you know, I'm not that familiar with the budget process, so I would really enjoy that extra help in looking into everything to make sure that it's correct, just going forward, making sure the numbers add up a little bit better and everyone is getting what they submit, because we just keep running into a few things that aren't driving. So, and I don't think that they put their hourly rate on this. Our current one, Von Felt, Bauer and Von Felt, they have 10,625 for 18, 10,840 for 19, and then 1160 for 20.
Had this last audit go with them?
It went good. He came out with one other guy. There was just a few things that we had talked about. He said it was mostly like the small towns. Most small towns have the same issues because there's just not a ton of people being able to look at everything. But
Does Von Felt charging you a training fee? Because Adams, Brown, Barron and Ball was up to 1,500.
yeah, that was just the hourly rate. So everything that Aaron helps us with, he charges us an hour, like anything that's other than the audit.
Up to it, including what?
He is $130 per hour.
With unlimited hours?
Yeah.
Because Brown, Barron and Ball just limited 1,500. Plus their rates are about $1,500 cheaper. And they do pay local taxes and utilities in their town.
So those are those.
Plus they're cheaper.
Yeah, I don't see a problem going out to them, all over, right down the street.
Right.
Even though Melissa, you said Melissa would be handling it, or?
I believe
Probably
Melissa
everybody.
does. She's out of Great
Very good.
Bend, but I mean she's down here a day.
Good.
So I think it'd be her and I was wrong with Danielle, not Nicole.
So the other agreement is gonna expire already? You're the other-
The bids that we had for Von Felt, Bauer, it was a 3-year thing, and it was up for this year. So I got more bids.
I move we go with ABB&B.
Second.
Motion and a second to change audit services to Adams, Brown, Barron and Ball from Von Felt, Bauer and Von Felt 20. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed, carries.
You got quite a list, Jeannie.
The beer garden, I need approval for the cereal malt beverage license.
Who's doing that? Who's on the licenses?
The
Same? Okay.
So moved. Did you need that?
Second.
Yes.
Motion and a second. Macias and Christie to approve beer garden license for Jubilee. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed, carries 4.
And then the last one, I put First Street house cleanup. I talked to John a little bit. My plan was to ask permission to get a bucket truck in front of Beam's house, and I was gonna have a community work day and get some of the junk cleaned up, especially before Jubilee. And Jeff came in today to save the day And he said that he thinks that he can get the guys over there with some equipment and get it all cleaned up. So I don't really need that anymore.
What do you mean by all cleaned up?
Not the
I would get
house.
the exterior
Just
cleaned up
that.
in a half a day, probably with a loader and a couple of trucks. It's not that big a deal. The
Yeah.
biggest part's that tree limb. Weekly, if we don't have any problems with where we go on the yard, we'll get it cleaned up.
I reviewed that thing several times. I mean, I think the city did everything it was supposed to do. I'm a little concerned because we've never had somebody abandon a house like that.
We have not been able to get in contact with Michael Beam.
They even responded to the letters.
Well, I know I tried to contact him with no success, so.
I think I even tried Facebook. I've called his work. I mean, I made several attempts to try to get a hold of this person.
He's not an interested person of record. It's the, what's the mom's name?
Lee.
Lenny,
My thought is if you clean up the yard, maybe
she's passed on, yes.
maybe they'll notice that somebody's doing stuff out there. I'm just concerned about a bunch of personal property within the house and all that.
My biggest fear is a hydrant, something like that with a loader. We shoot one off, you know. That would be the only thing, if there's something up in the junk somewhere, we catch the loader. Of course, I don't think there's anything left there saved, you know, as far as that.
So do we eligible to allow them to clean up the outside, or they're good to go?
Yeah.
Sounds great to clean up.
As far as
At least get
Sooner
the
the
outside
better.
cleaned up.
Yeah.
That'd be
Maybe
great.
they'll come to town for Jubilee and notice the house got cleaned up.
I don't know if we're that lucky. Okay, I think that's all I have. Let me double check my list. Can't find my list. That's all for now.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. Well, wait, anything else for Jamie? Okay, thanks, Jamie. City Superintendent Jeff Williamson.
We have a climbing nitrate problem at the water plant. We're not exactly sure what's causing it. We don't know whether the vessels are not cleaning it up or what it is. We seem to have an iron oxide problem, a severe one. It's been coming on for quite some time. It's just steadily gotten worse. And we've been in contact with Ned Marks about what to do about it, because we've always had iron oxide. But we're having to cut we regenerate those vessels all the time at about 300,000 gallon with salt, and that's what washes the resin and cleans them up so that we put them back into service. But we've brought that 300,000 down to 250. And at this point, we're still running right at 10 parts, which is the maximum you can run. And so, talking with Ned, he said the only way to really figure out what's going on is that we need to do a chemical analysis of the wells, see where it's coming from. We know that part of it's coming from our west well at number 6. We also know it's coming from number 5, but at what rate we don't know. And maybe some bacteria that we don't know about. So his suggestion was to do a complete chemical analysis on each one of the wells and find out whether it's changes in the aquifer, whether it's something in the casing, on the screens, where it's at. Cost is $1,000 a well, give or take a little bit. And so I brought it to you to see what you want to do.
Which one's 6 again, Jeff?
The west one, it's the one we drilled last out there in the ground before 7 and 8 behind the plant. We did it probably in the late 80s, early 90s, I suppose, is when we did. Of course, it's the one that's the most susceptible to groundwater problems anyway. And this time of year, you know, the nitrates climb. I mean, we know that's gonna happen, but this has consistently gotten worse. And if you go out to the nitrate plant and you see where the influent and the effluent are and the treated water, it will give you a digital readout when it's pumping as to what they are on instant samples. But they have clear tubing that goes in and out of them, and we can change that tubing, and in 3 weeks it's red. I mean, and we don't know whether, we think probably what's happening is that the resin's not getting washed down good. And so we can't control the treatment if we can't get it pulled down. And twice in the last 3 weeks, whoever was on call got a middle of the night alarm that the nitrates were too high. So they've had to go out and wait for it to finish and reset the zone where we want it to work in. So it looks like it's something that's not gonna go away. But like I say, we think it's in the resin, but until we know what the wells are doing, we won't know how to control it, so.
Have you sampled your individual wells
We sample them daily.
daily, and it's, you're.
But we don't know about iron and stuff, that's the thing. All we do is a sample of what the influent and the effluent water is. That's all
For
we do.
nitrate.
Yeah, and depending on the day, it depends on which wells are running. We've tried to slow them down, but when we do that, then we have to put another well on. We're getting in the time of year where the water usage is going up, so it requires so many gallons a minute. That's the way we have to pump it, so, in order to keep the reserve tank full, so. But, I think it's probably past what we know. It's gonna have to go into a water analysis of some sort, so.
What's
Council
the casing? What's the casing out there? Is it steel casing?
That's number 6 is plastic.
Plastic?
Yeah. The others are steel. That one I'm pretty sure is plastic.
So it's not coming from your casing,
Not
it's
that we know.
coming from your aquifer?
If that's where it is, if it's not all coming out of 5, we just don't know. The nitrate problem probably out of 6, that one out there, but the iron oxide problem
And your
probably
supply
out of
lines are
All
plastic?
cast iron.
All cast?
Yeah, some of them are plastic. It depends on where they came from, depends on where we tied in.
So if you check your well and you're not pumping
Iron there.
but you
Exactly.
get iron there, you're probably
Exactly.
picking it up from your distribution system.
I think everything probably on the outlet side now is probably plastic. I don't think they shortchanged anything because there was taps in all the other line. The only thing would be where it tied into the cast iron to come back into the tower, which might be a short piece. I really don't know.
So from there to your plant is plastic?
Yeah,
So you're not picking it up at transmission to your plant?
it's on the outlet side if we've got any at all. It comes back from the plant to the tower, which we wouldn't see. So.
So you're pretty much looking at an aquifer problem, most likely.
Probably.
Council
We would
thoughts?
like to get a full-scale analysis to know exactly what we're dealing with.
Where you begin?
We're not really trained to do this kind of stuff. I mean, when it comes to this is a chemistry deal. I mean, so,
Would it not be a good idea if we could get like another opinion that's professional?
you sure can. But I don't know who I call. We've used this water geologist for 20 years. I mean, we have no reason not to trust him.
It's pretty sharp.
No, I just,
Yeah. I mean, we can, but he's not gonna do it. It will be done by an outside company. He'll just advise us what we wanna do, what we need to do, and then go from there.
I don't think
So,
the geologist
I
is
mean,
their issue.
I think the proof is probably in the water plant. If you go out there and see it, you can see that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out we're pumping some iron somewhere.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, I've
so
been
Russ-
out there with you guys.
Yeah,
and
you've seen it.
Seen how
Yeah.
red those tubes
Yeah,
can get.
You've seen them.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I don't have a problem with you getting a testing done on this. What did you say the cost was again?
he said it was gonna be about $1,000 a well, is what he said, but they'll go from top to bottom, they'll check iron, manganese, copper, everything, And we'll know what, when we pulled that number 3 well here a few years back, we chose not to wash the screen and stuff down because the screen looked fairly good. But still, you have to remember, a lot of these wells are about 70 years old, close to it now. So there is some deterioration in there in the steel casings and that, and it could be there, it could be coming in the aquifer, we don't know. But I like Jim said, I think that's where we're gonna have to start, is right there.
So we have two sets of problems. We have iron oxide and nitrates.
I don't know.
And this chemical analysis is gonna tell us both.
Well, what it's gonna tell us is probably where that iron is coming from and what we need to do to stop the problem that we have so we can go ahead and treat the nitrates. I think what's happening, Ryan, is the fact that we're getting so much iron in that resin, when that regenerates, it can't wash it out of there, and so it's lost its effectiveness to treat that the way it should. So when we first started, like in the wintertime, when things are slow, we can bypass about 3/4 of the water that we pump through there without having to treat it. The nitrates are low enough, which keeps it from going through the vessels. It pumps it right straight through. But when we have to start using the vessels and we're picking up this iron in this water, I think it's clogging that resin up. And when we regenerate, what it essentially does is backwash that resin. And then it pumps the salt water that it uses out into the pond out north. But I think what's happening is that this is hanging in that vessel and it can't get it knocked out. So whether it's a straight salt treatment that's gonna take to do it, or whether it's a bacteria problem, I don't know. So I think this will probably tell us, you know, whether it's an iron problem or whether it's some bacteria. It could be a bacteria that's causing it too.
When was do you know when the last analysis like this was done?
Never done it as far as I know. Never done it.
Jeff, refresh my memory, how many wells we have again?
3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 5, 6, 7, 5? Is that right?
6 if you call them.
If we count the south one, but the south one we don't pump, so we have 5. We have 5 that we take supply.
I don't know that chloride.
The last two, that 7 and 8, those are small volume wells, they're 125 gallon net wells.
Well, your chloride, chlorine in your rosins, will that get rid of iron oxide?
Yeah. I don't know.
And when you back flush, can you?
See, we don't treat it with chlorine there, it doesn't happen till after the fact, out of the vessel.
Can you increase the frequency of your back flush?
Yeah, you can, it's just gonna use more salt. Yeah, we can knock the regenerations down to whatever we want to. We can program them however we want them.
Yeah. Plus you still have to start.
Just
to use
imagine the
extra
salt,
wells.
it's just the salt that we're gonna run through to do it, because that's what
You still
basically
have, you
does.
still have to start at your
We
wells.
still have to have some kind of an analysis, I
Yeah,
think.
you do.
Jeff, before we get make any commitment on, can we get an actual quote on what it's gonna be, the
I
complete
don't-
price or
I don't
anything?
think they know. He just
They
said,
don't know.
he said, what he told me in the email he sent me this afternoon was $1,000 would be the minimum.
Would be the minimum.
That's what he told me. He said that's where we need to start.
Remind me, what's the number on the one north of Swin?
3,
3. Is that back online now?
yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
See, we had a camera.
yep, we cambered in.
Quite
And that's
a bit
when we
of
chose not to
bacteria.
pull the screen and stuff, you know, and it wasn't terrible bad. So, I mean, the screen and stuff, but we didn't analyze that water at all. I mean, we did the casing more or less because we thought we were pumping water, or pumping air, I'm sorry.
Right.
So that's the reason we did it.
I just remember a lot of iron bacteria on the screen.
Oh, yeah, and there would be on cast, you know, of course, you've worked around it too, and you know what
Right.
cast iron does.
Right.
But if there's even that much more in the water consistency itself, then I think that's probably gonna be where it comes from. I mean, that's gonna be the natural for black pipe is to rust, so.
What's
Yeah, if
next?
you think all of them need to be done, I guess,
That's the only
That's the
place
only
I know to
step we can
start,
take,
you know, before it gets any worse.
if there's one more than the other, I guess, can you not do one at a time? I mean,
Oh, we
just
can,
maybe
yeah,
the
we
ones
can
that
do
you
one at a
think-
time, but I don't know how to pick and choose, that's the thing, I don't know. Because when we do them, we'll have to shut them down for like 72 hours, see? Well, that limits the amount that we can pump, so we have to be careful about how we do it, because we're getting into this, the time of the year where we pump quite a little bit of water. We'll pump 60, 70, 80,000 a day, so.
How much are you willing to spend per well? Because if it's 1,000 minimum, this well could be 10,000, this well could be
But
1,000.
it's drinking water, and it's 100,000 to drill one,
Right.
so.
What do you want to do?
I
Man,
hate
you
to
test
see-
it, but when you don't know how much it's gonna cost.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, this could be, oh, it could be
Which
5,000
we
or
do better
50,000.
on which one to start with, you know, we could just try one and.
I think if I was gonna start, I'd probably start on that number 5 well, on that east well. It's the one we depend on the most, but we're gonna have to get it done in a reasonably quick time before we start, because we pump the most volume of water out of it.
The one south of First Street.
The one that's out of Canopies.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about some pumping restrictions on lawn water and things while you're doing this, so we don't go into a extra high usage of water and keep us drinking water and There's some pumping restrictions and
You know, I was going to suggest that earlier on, but I didn't know how many people I'd upset by doing it, that when you, to me, as precious as the water's getting, and you know this probably more so than anybody here, that when you go out of the parameters of what it takes to consume, that the price ought to go up. And it ought to get severely high, I think. I mean, you know, we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on metering and that stuff. But I think after what came out this spring with the watering restrictions on the farming and that stuff, that when you go above, you know, what households should use, they should pay to use it. They really do. I mean, we're not the first people to do this by any means.
Right.
You know, this has been going on in the western part of the United States for 40 years. But, you know, and I see too, and Jamie didn't bring this up, and it really is, it's kind of with this, but it's not. Jamie and I went to a CDBG meeting here a couple weeks ago in Newton about grant money for water repair, sewer repair, stuff like that. But until your rates are up where you can get in with what they want, you can't borrow any money. I mean, you have to know that they're gonna get their money back, you know, when you do that. But, I've always felt that when I have a house that has a 2-inch meter that's using 100,000 gallon a month, that I can bet over 90 of it's going on the yard. And the water's been next to free up until now. I think the council's gonna have to look at controlling what's going through there and how much, you know, just because you want your yard green, you know, we're the ones that are suffering. Everybody else that drinks it's suffering for it because we're treating all that water, every bit of it.
yeah, we're pumping treated water out on.
You know,
lawns.
we're trying our hardest to do the parks, to get the parks down and controlled where we don't pump any treated water on them. But until we do, of course, it takes money too, and we understand that. But, you know, it's a council decision how you want to go about it, but it's just, I'm afraid, like Jim said, 2 council meetings back, it's gonna get valuable enough that we're gonna have to be careful about what we do.
Well, 1,000 is nothing to test a water well. Tested lots of them.
But it's
That's,
something
I mean,
where
we
they're
have
saying
the
that's a
money.
minimum.
We have the money to do it. I mean, you know, that's part of the nitrate plant money, and there's money there to do it. But you have to keep the quality of water up well enough that people will consume it. And I think when you get to the point, you know, we've had a lot of red water calls. I mean, we've flushed fire plugs from one end of town to the other.
Do that.
You know, and there's only so much we can do without going back to the quality of the water. And if that's where it's coming from, part of it, then it's something that needs to be addressed.
You know,
I think probably before we get into the pumping season, that we probably ought to put some restrictions on lawn watering.
John, thoughts on that?
Well, I can look, I mean, you guys think you probably do whatever you want.
We're gonna have about 100 phone calls a day in here, so we
Oh,
better have
yeah.
our bases covered.
It will. It's gonna stir some, it's
I
gonna
know
stir
a
the
couple
water.
cities that actually, I believe Russell has watering restrictions a lot.
Well,
So
it might-
Russell and Ace have lots of water restrictions.
Well, it might be something that we need to really consider and look hard at because talking with Jeff a while back, it looks like we're just gonna be heading in that direction. You know, it's unfortunate, but that's gonna happen.
We're in a stage 4 drought area right now.
Right.
So I go back to the question
problem-
of what's your max that you're willing to spend per well, because again, 1,000 minimum, it needs done, but what happens when, oh, this well's this much? I mean, I don't know what the price is, what it could be per well.
Boy, I don't either. I don't
And
even
then
know
if
why
we turn
do it.
around and we spend $100,000 or something, I mean, yeah, it's still cheaper than having to,
Well, I think anytime we get past that point, I think we need to discuss it, you know, of how far you wanna go with it.
so I want to know what the council, where's that cutoff?
How much is in that budget you're talking about, the nitrate plant?
It's about 30,000 in a year, and that pays for salt and that stuff. And of course, up until now, we've only taken a load, maybe a load and a half of salt a year. So.
So the budget, you said budget's 30,000 a year. How much have we used so far?
I don't know for sure. I didn't get a chance to look at it. We
Load of
bought
salt's
one load of
probably
salt, is what we bought.
$8,000.
A few minimum things. Load's a little over 4,000, I think is what it is. So,
So we say 5,000, we're,
we take some chlorine out of that and stuff, you know. I don't know, where's it at, Jamie? 20? 21?
I don't have access to those. I can look up here, but.
I can tell you. Here, hang on just a moment. I think I can tell you exactly. Up to the last sheet. Pam tries to update my stuff a couple times a month.
That's the biggest thing, you just need to know where you're willing to go before you, because when I come back and, oops, then where are we at?
We're buying bottled water. No, that's true.
I don't believe iron oxide will hurt you to drink it. It just tastes foul.
Yeah, stinks a little.
Nobody wants to drink it.
Nobody wants to
No.
drink it, it's not gonna hurt you.
There is 29,374.78. That's what there is.
Right now, what we have in there?
That's what I have, yes, remaining. Yep,
Where'd you begin?
just a little over 30.
Okay, so you,
We haven't bought any salt, we bought the salt for the first of the year.
I'd say my opinion is to put a cap, tell them if it can be between 1,000 to 2,000 per well, we'd be at 10,000 to do all 5. That's where I'd say, Jeff, if you could talk to him, I mean, if that's not even realistic, I'd like to know.
I think when we get the first set of samples, I'll probably have a better idea.
Yeah.
You know, we're just, I mean, he said he did some stuff for Stafford and that's about where it ran.
Around 1,000, you said?
He said somewhere, but he said about, well, what he told me was between 1,000 and 1,500 is what he told me, but that's $6,000 or $7,500 for 5 wells. But 7 and 8, we don't have to test. 7 and 8 are the shallow wells out behind the, or the deep wells out behind the plant. And we only pump them at 100 to 125 gallons a minute, so we know it's not coming from there. So it's basically going to be the west, east, and the north well. So,
your plume of water comes from the southwest.
yep. And these 2 south wells pump the most, you know,
That's where I would start testing.
so.
So if they test one well, Jeff, and it comes back a red flag of high iron oxides, are you gonna keep testing? I mean.
I think there's
test
ways
all
to
of
treat some of it. I just don't, I'm not a chemist, I don't know, Ryan, but I think there's ways to treat some of this. Whether you have whether there's an adverse chemical that can knock it down, or whether it's a filtering of some sort that would, you know, coming out of the well that we could control part of it. I don't know.
So, I mean, after getting your test from each well, is that, at that point, is that where the geologist comes back in and throws out options?
And
How
gives
to
you,
do it?
I think he'll give us options along the way as to what he's seeing and that, but I know that they have to be sent off and done. You know, the more I talk with Ned, the more I can tell you. I didn't get to visit with him very much today. Jason ran him down. They were out there for a couple hours. But, you know, that's what he gave me to bring to you. And, you know, if you think you want more information, I'll have Ned come the next time. I mean, this didn't happen overnight.
Right.
And if that's what you want to know,
I think we need to get started testing, but we need
You
to
know?
know what our max is per, and if it goes past that, if we have to call a meeting to approve more, I'm not against that.
well, you know, we discussed when we did that work on that north well, that there was gonna come a time we were probably gonna have to drill another one. And we know that it's 100,000 probably or close to do it. There are grants available to do that, pay it back on the long term, but we didn't wanna do it at the time just yet. But I'm not too sure that the water board's not gonna shut some of that down if you're not careful. They're not gonna let you drill anymore. You know, or they're gonna be really funny about what they let you take. And whether you're a farmer or whether you're consuming it for human consumption, it doesn't make any difference.
We're all in the aquifer.
Yeah. And if Jim puts in for a well before I put in for one, if they're gonna give one, he'll get his first. He put the permit in first. So, I think we take care of what we have. If we can babysit these old deals and we can slow the consumption down a little bit, that's where the pumping comes from. When you start pumping them hard, that's when the nitrates start coming up, that's when the treatment becomes longer.
I just don't know if we can put any restrictions on our customers when we ourselves are pumping.
That's exactly right, and that's my thought.
I mean,
You know, we're doing everything we can, but we're gonna have to spend money to stop ours too. So,
yeah.
Well, I would suggest you can control consumptions with rates. you can have a base rate that's up to X units of water, and then above that units of water for a household of 4, you raise the rate. And that will control your pumping costs, and I don't know how many private wells there are in town. I've got one.
Yes. But Ryan's right. I mean, you can't hardly hold the towel over somebody's head when you're doing the same
If
thing,
you're
right?
pumping water on the.
Yeah, do as I say, not as I do, right, you know.
Yeah.
So, and of course, we're, you know, as we can, I've been trying to get something done on this south part, but it's still gonna be groundwater, any way you look at it. I mean, it's still groundwater, whether it's treated or it's not, so.
Council's thoughts.
You wanna go to Zoysia Grass and shut your water off, you know, I mean,
I think we need to get the testing done on that, if we're going to do it, and you're thinking that, Ned said something in between 1,000 and 1,500, cap it at 2,000. If it goes more than that, bring it back to council and we'll discuss it. If we have to have a special meeting, then we will.
how about if I get with him and we see how soon we can test it, I bring him to the next meeting?
That'll work.
Would that
Be a good idea.
console everybody a little
That'll
bit?
be
We'll
fine.
kinda see, maybe we'll have some answers by then, maybe we won't, I don't know.
Yeah. Whatever you
So-
think is best, Jeff, I think I'd go with that, so.
Okay, that's what I'll do then.
I discussed with him before he comes to the meeting, whoever's gonna do that testing, because he doesn't do it, does he? Just-
No, he
just
recommends
If he
who
can
does.
really talk to him and maybe find out, guys, we'd like to know the price, because I think that's the biggest issue we're having.
I think it
Maybe.
depends on what you find as to what the price is gonna be, is what I think. I don't know that it's gonna be a nickel's worth of difference between which chemical or chemist to another, but because, you know, like when we take our water samples, we take them to Dodge, sometimes we take them to Hutch, and the cost is the same. I mean, it's, you know, the drive, one of them's 50 miles, one of them's 70 miles, but I mean, it's just whoever can get them tested and get them back. We do that all the time, but I think the cost is gonna be in what it takes to repair the problem, is what I think. So,
Price is the same at either line, basically.
so anyway, but I'll do what I can, and if I can, you know, if I think that we get into this and I think Ned needs to come, I'll just have him come next meeting, I'll be glad to. And he'll be glad to come over, I mean, he always has, you know, so. And I had a comment earlier, and I'm sorry that it got a little bit loud, but these people that you have that have high utility bills, we have ways to restrict the usage. If the council even wants to think about doing that. If you have a person that has extremely high bill and maybe can't control it, we have ways of controlling it that we can bring their usage down and still give them a minimum. You know, a refrigerator, maybe a furnace, a few lights and that, but when it gets above what that meter's set at, it'll trip it out. Then they have to manually reset it to have it come back on.
Thoughts, John?
I don't know, can you do that by law?
I don't know, they make them, there's companies that make them, I've got 4 in the back of my shop. I've had them for years.
You should set them to the amperage of,
It has 30 amps on it, and when it goes over that, it trips. There's a push button on the side. You go ahead and shut something off, you push it, it reset it, and turns it back on.
They have to
I
know.
didn't know that.
So, there's a way, I mean, when these big ones that you're talking about now came up years ago, we bought those. We never did use them. But they are available, you know.
I'd hate to see a situation where somebody's got some kind of life-saving.
That's
equipment
probably
plugged
gonna
in.
shut your hot tub and stuff off, but, you know, you'd still have electricity. So,
Yeah.
that's just a thought. But anyway, that's all I have. Thank you. We'll see where we get from here.
Great. Thank you, Jeff.
Article 6, Dakota, if you guys want to look at it sometime, chapter 15 has different levels of declarations for water watch. Water warning and water emergencies, and then what's considered conservation, voluntary conservation, mandatory conservation, emergency water rates. And then, of course, you also have emergency termination. But there's penalty section and everything, so that's the process that you would take.
The state or the city?
The city does.
City code.
John, what did you say, Article 6, what else?
Article 6 of chapter 15.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chapter 15,
Chapter
Article
15.
6.
We have a deal set up through Kansas Rural Water, we're required to file that with the state too, some sort of an emergency plan for stuff like that.
Yeah, if there's a health emergency, you can shut it off immediately.
So,
Can you get us those articles?
Excuse me?
Can you get us those articles? Article 6, Section 15.
Yeah, I can put it in the next packet. or it's online.
Yeah, next week, next month, meeting or whatever.
Thanks, Jeff.
Sure.
City Attorney John Beverland.
I've got a bunch of stuff on old business, but the only thing listed in my name is the water rights issue, the Rattlesnake Creek LEM, if I'm saying that correctly. So the only question I have is, how much time, what do you want me, what exactly do you want? Do you want a memo? I've done some research, I've talked with one individual. There was a filing deadline for comments that expired March 15th. Am I providing information? One of the things that I think you guys need to know is kind of where the city water rights fall, kind of in line with municipal use and that type of thing. As far as restrictions, it's my understanding the goal is to restrict to 90 irrigated circles. Is that what you're hearing, Jeff? And there's been proposals on how to kind of do a shared pane type of, turning off the end pivots on all the irrigated circles. It's my understanding maybe close to the 90 irrigated circles. There's been discussions about some kind of cap and trade program run by Groundwater Management District 5. So there's all kinds of information out there, but the document that was filed or prepared by KDHE is like 162 pages long. So I kind of am looking for some restrictions here on me, because it's something I could spend a lot of time on. And I don't know if it just means I need to find somebody to talk to you about it. I know that there's a law firm out of Colorado that's actually assisting some local farmers out of the Maxwell area.
Council Science.
I was visiting with a couple of people that are on they're kind of in the know, and I think they're close to getting, they're cautiously optimistic.
Agreement between everybody involved.
Right, they're cautiously optimistic, but no matter what, I think right here in the immediate Lima area, and if you look at their maps, the darker shaded area in this Rattlesnake Creek Basin, they're looking at probably somehow a 4,000 acre foot reduction of water pumping in this area. But it's still a negotiation. I think probably if we do anything as a city, it would, or if the county, or school district, or whatever, our local government agencies, I think we need to make it known to the state, the Department of Agriculture, and the Division of Water Resources, the economic impact that this can have upon our schools, our city, county, and our local governments, because this is going to remove a lot of money out of this area. And it's not just a one time, it's every year. So, 20 irrigated circle, 150 to 200 acre feet, so if you're looking at 4,000, that's what, 20, and they're looking at maybe moving water out of the Lima into another area, which would be closing wells down, and they're looking at a lot of options, and there's some, I think the people I've talked to are, their main concern is to spread the cost so it doesn't hit one or two people the hardest. It's like this affects everybody, and there's some controversy. There have been some lawsuits filed against recommendations already, which I don't know if that's the Colorado company or not.
They didn't say anything, and I have not done that type. I mean, I've looked at the materials on the website and talked to people. Like I said, I could spend, this has been going on since 2016, so there's a lot of stuff to look at.
It's probably been going on since 1948 when the state took the water, took the water from the land, severed water rights from the land. But I think it's my concern, and I think maybe we need to approach it as this will harm our cities and our school, and to do it with the least economic impact to our area.
So I mean, I was a little lost with this also. So basically, we're looking into that whole issue because of the economic downfall more than it would. I mean, that's what it's mostly about.
What?
Or is it like it's affecting our water here? as a
No,
city?
it's not affecting our water. It's affecting, it's allegedly impairing the flow of water down the Rattlesnake Creek to Quivera in the months in which they wish to use the water.
So,
Uh,
what are you looking at doing then?
Well,
I was pretty lost until just about 10 minutes ago. So, what are you looking at doing, John? You're looking.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if my task is to provide information. I don't know if my task is to provide steps the city can take, like Jim says, to make the issue understood by those who are, you know, making the decisions or proposing the solutions. I just need some kind of guidance.
Well,
I mean, I kind of familiarized myself with the issue, but that's about as far as I've gone.
I visited with I think he's president of Unity 5, and he thought if we could give him, my understanding is that if we could give him help, is that, hey, write a letter to Secretary of Agriculture, whatever, to Division of Water Resources, that, you know, we're concerned because we depend upon ag. That's our source of livelihood in this area. There's a lot of young families that move back. You know, it's going to affect their schools. You know, it'll affect their county government. It'll affect their evaluations. It'll affect the number of people that live in town.
So maybe you're saying that the people that are proposing these solutions and making decisions just need to understand that we take it serious and are concerned about it, just like everybody.
Well, you know, there's.
You know, that has direct impact. We're concerned about the indirect impact because of loss of economic base, loss of citizens, loss of tax dollars.
Does the city need to make a good faith plan of trying to present ways to conserve water too at the same time? Is that gonna help?
You know, I don't know if some of that scientific data is part of that what I call pleading, but whatever was prepared by the Department of Agriculture, the chief, the impairment. filing or whatever.
Impairment filing.
I don't know if there's anything in there about municipal usage. It talks a lot about everything else, but I don't know if there's anything that says, you know, what impact the city of St. John has on.
Maybe we ought to start trying to figure out ways to redesign our parks to get the grass out in some of them, you know?
I mean, it's more of like we're gonna spend money paying John to let's say protest is the way I'm seeing it.
Well, I don't know that we need John to protest. I'm thinking that maybe as a city, we should just,
Listen, whatever decision you make about this is gonna
Affects
affect
us.
our community.
Yeah.
Because if the farmers dry up, this town
This
dries
town
up.
does.
That's it.
Exactly
you know,
right.
To that
and
extent.
there are different agendas, and I'm not trying
Right.
to say that one agenda is incorrect, because, you know, Quivera does have a water right that is senior, because it's surface water. And whether there's a lot of arguments who's impairing what. But a bird watcher coming into Quivera driving a Prius with a pair of binoculars and standing at the Motel 6 does not spend a lot of money. Somebody that's putting in 10,000 acres of corn spends a ton of money. The rent, one affects our economy tremendously.
So could it be something where John could get with somebody that's really knowledgeable about all that, write up a letter, and it could be thrown in our city bill? Is that kind of what You're
Well,
thinking?
You're wanting to pass it along to someone that's gonna be making the decision.
Yeah, I don't think we're
you know,
making
maybe-
decisions. I think we just want it to be known that we know
Yeah.
this is going to affect us.
Yeah, that the city understands how it's going to affect us.
Yeah, think-
Yeah, and I agree, I think
I
that,
think that's what we need to know.
Exactly.
Because until I brought it up, most people were sitting
Well,
around this table didn't even know it was kept going on.
right, and I had a long talk with Jeff about this, and I started getting some information. I'm barely starting to get this, and it concerns
You
me.
know,
I wished I could've gone to that deal in Garden City. I think a guy would've learned a lot out there that day, you know.
I mean, would that be a
Far
good
where it could go.
Jim,
I
if
think
a
we
guy-
work with Carolyn Dunn, I think we work with the county, I think we work with the schools. You know, we're in this all together, whether it be Maxville, Stafford, whoever. This affects basically a 5-county area, but we are basically ground zero.
You know, a lot of cities have promoted, low-volume shower heads, you know,
I would say
low-volume
yes.
stools, things like that. I mean, there's
I agree
a
with what
lot
Jim
of
has
things
said.
that.
We need to do this.
Yeah, we can't protest, we really can't
No.
change.
Right.
No.
And-
No, but we can show them our concern.
That's what I say
Right.
we do.
You're
Right,
not- So
I
you're not
agree.
asking me to put any materials together for you to review? Okay.
Just a letter that we could send to the decision makers to let them know that we're aware of the
And
situation.
I think it should be joint. I think it should be county commissioners. I think it should be school districts. I think it should be everyone involved.
Well, and if we start that trend, maybe it continues when we communicate, if we communicate with those other people,
Right.
they'll send a letter as
And
well.
there's no way of telling who filed, like I said, there are dozens and dozens, I don't know how many comments. I don't know if maybe this has been done by another municipality or something.
Those were the comments to GMD 5 on that were ended March 15th, right?
Right.
Yeah, wasn't that just a public forum that people were presenting? That's the
And I
ones
don't-
I read.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even look at those, like, because the report was so long. but
Okay.
I don't know if something like that's already been done by other cities. I don't know.
So council is okay with John drafting a letter
And
for
talk
our-
to Carolyn Dunn.
for our
I mean,
approval.
she's economic
I
development.
mean, can you do
What's a
it?
comfortable time?
Can you go and talk to Carolyn?
for John
I've
to
talked
spend
to
on this?
Carolyn, I've talked to people on GMD 5, I have not talked to county
No.
commissioners, nor have I talked to school, Josh. But I think anybody in this loop should be receptive because everyone's gonna be affected.
John, what would you say an acceptable amount of time to draft a
I
letter
have
would
no
be?
idea. I just don't.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about something I don't do.
Right.
Law, I don't do.
Right,
I think what I'd probably do is visit with Carolyn first. I don't know what's already been done. I mean, I don't want to reinvent the wheel.
right.
Talk to Carolyn, talk to the school superintendent,
Right.
talk to other mayors. I mean, I think we just need to be
Let people know that we're aware.
maybe proactive.
Right. And at some point, we're gonna have to start educating the community itself, because there's a lot of people that have no clue. I know I didn't until
Well,
it was
that's,
brought towards me, so,
There's a lot of ways for cities to promote things like that, there
Yeah.
really is.
yeah.
You know, and some of them give rebates on things, they sell low volume, like I said, low volume shower heads, sinks, stools, things like that, you know, to bring their usage down. I mean, you'd be surprised, how much water run through a standard shower head in about 10 minutes. It'd scare you to death, but if you put a 2 gallon a minute head on, you can get just as good a shower and you use 10 gallon of water instead of 100, you know? So every little bit helps.
Right.
And we waste, maybe use more water in agriculture than we need to. You know, I installed an underground drip system 2 years ago, 3 years ago, which if I were 30 years younger, I would think would be a bright decision. At my age, I won't live long enough to get my money back. You know, we're looking at several $100,000 per system to do it. I think as this evolves, we will curtail some of our water usage. But I think it's an evolution. The economic impact in our area is my largest concern. And tax base.
right.
So I think I see well, Kent Rickson's example is put in some long drip system drag lines. There's just a lot of innovations that are, if you look what the Israelis have done over the last 50, 75 years since the 1940s, you know, there's a lot of things that will happen.
I agree with Jim. I think, John, probably talk with Carolyn, get with Mr. Myers over at the school. Talk with county commissioners. I mean, we need to get everybody involved in this.
Do you know what you're gonna do, John? It sounds like you're a little lost with it.
Well, I just, like I said, I mean, if it's just speaking,
We need Jim's motivation
I
and you.
think that something probably would be acceptable is to work with Carolyn to see kind of
Yeah,
the route we need to go.
I just think
have
we need
you-
to work together.
Maybe
Exactly.
you have a letter that we could maybe get drafted up and then send copies to these other places and say, listen, this is what we've sent. We would like you to jump on board and send something similar to this because this is gonna affect all of us. That may be the best route to
if
go.
you're, I mean, what I'm not gonna be able to do is say, for instance, that the agricultural community has X number of dollar impact on our community. I mean, I don't have those numbers.
Right.
I wouldn't even know how to generate those numbers.
It's just a chain where when farm,
And
this
I
is a
think
farming
Carolyn has
community, I mean,
figures on that.
Actually, Chad Fisher has a lot of those numbers because his little brother ran a lot of numbers that he presented in this forum.
Is that acceptable for John to kind of go that route of
Yes.
getting on
Yeah.
work with
Yeah.
I
Carolyn?
think Dakota, Lisa, you might have ideas, your contacts, I don't know.
They've hired a lobbyist for our area.
You're talking about WaterPak, hired the lobbyist,
No, there's another group that hired a lobbyist
besides WaterPak.
besides WaterPak
What's,
to represent. I need to go look into it before I say
not
anything.
them.
It's a legislative policy group. Does that sound familiar? Because they do a lot. They represent
No.
about 35 rural counties.
No, it was a bunch of farmers and area people that hired a lobbyist in several
Yeah,
counties.
that's the person with all the information.
I'll get that information. I don't know it off the top
yeah,
of my
well,
head.
I need, you know, I get bits and pieces,
That's the way I am.
yeah.
Okay.
I need facts. Where I
Anything
see-
else this time, John? Till we get down to the
No,
next,
yeah, not
next
really.
section. Okay. Alrighty, moving on to the new section on the agenda. I'm a department head, so I now have a section. That's new. You're welcome. This is information request for agenda, and guys, here's the deal, communicating with Jamie, it's really hard for her office when they have to shut down when she has 4 or 5 council members coming on Monday afternoon saying, I want this by Tuesday. And so, policy states that information needs to be there by noon on Friday, prior to.
And I'll say
Meeting?
that, I mean, when I sit down with my city stuff, it's Sunday night. And so
Right.
if it's Monday or Tuesday,
Right.
you can bet that I'm not gonna be ready for the topic.
Right, but I mean, the biggest thing is, you know, if it's something that can be handled outside of council, through the mayor, who has the general daily authority to talk with the department heads and say, hey, we're seeing this, we need to do this. If it's not a policy decision, an ordinance, it can be handled outside of, that's what my role is. It's like, oh, hey, Jeff, we want the curb cleaned out over there on First Street. We don't have to come to council for that. We don't need to know the records of when those curbs were cleaned out last. We don't need, that's not necessary. We're here to handle business, and so if you see something that you think we need to be getting onto, I'm not opposed to anyone calling Jeff. If you wanna call me and say, hey, I think we need to get this done, what do you think? Jeff, hey, we'd like to get this cleaned up this week if we can get it worked in and not have to have all this different exchange. But the main purpose for this is, if you have something you want on the agenda, try to be timely about it, because they just can't shut their office down and have to come up with 15,000 different records 1 or 2 days before, because it's not gonna make the agenda. It'll have to go to the next agenda. We need to be timely, we need to be more respectful about it. Ultimately, I work with her to set the agenda, and we can decide what goes there and what doesn't. And if it's not appropriate time, it's gonna get shifted to the next one. So this is just trying to be a little more organized and more courteous of their time, because they have a million things to be doing. And, you know, I understand if stuff comes up. If it's an emergency, we'll get it going, of course. But if it's something that we can push off till the next because, okay, we found out about it on Friday, but it's nothing huge, let's try to be more timely about that. And that was just the part that I wanted to talk about. Okay. Anybody have anything for me? Old business, well, number 2, that's still there.
You just take that off there.
Yeah, just take it off.
Are you gonna remind me to put it back?
Yeah.
I've been leaving it on there just so we know.
Right,
to
When the
revisit
time
it.
comes, yeah.
Right, okay. Moving on to the square. Is that, John?
Yeah, haven't heard anything in response to my letter, but I think it's kind of self-explanatory. I got a call, when does it say? Tuesday afternoon, from Mr. Robinson, suggesting that he was perhaps a little lost as to how to handle things as far as, because his thought was that it had to go through bid processes in the real property. And I said, if I figure out a way that the county can just donate it to the city, do you think the county would go for it? And he said, well, we're going to sell it for $1. I'm assuming they would just donate it. And so that letter is kind of the result of us looking at the issue.
Even if they have a sealed bid, do they have to accept the highest bid?
Well, they don't have to have a sealed
refuse
bid,
to-
but they should have donated it to the city back in 1984.
Okay, yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, I guess that's kind of, I mean, the cities and counties are figments of creation by the state, so the state, as long as it applies that evenly to all cities and counties, can pretty much tell you guys what to do, which is why you get unfunded mandates and stuff like that. Your home rule allows you to exempt yourself from certain laws if they're not applied uniformly to all cities. But back in 1984, the legislature said if the county's holding property in trust for public purpose, then they need to give that land to the city. I don't know why, but that's what they
So
say.
basically at a standstill till you hear
No.
back from.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't even know how often they meet. They meet once a week.
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday, so I don't know if I'll hear something tomorrow or not. I don't know how often he's in the office. This was just a county clerk, or the county attorney, the county clerk, so.
Reading through your information, it looks like the avenues to do this are in place, it's just a matter of doing it.
Yeah, they
And, you
just-
know, you may have to go in reverse to back around it, but it's a matter of
The
getting it done.
last update that I had gotten before this information was presented is that their thoughts were to do a yearly or a 50-year lease that exempted them from anything to do with it other than they're the property owner, city can do whatever they want with it, and it would automatically renew. But if we have this and they can take care of it, there's no need to sign a lease.
Yeah, there wasn't any kind of restrictions on the original deed, but it's been held in trust. It was, the deed says county square on it. To me, that's intended for public purpose. I don't know, I think there could be any debate on the issue.
So we just wait until you hear from.
Well, what time do they meet? They meet morning or
I
afternoon?
think it's about 10 or 11.
9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
to 8:30, I believe.
Okay, I mean, I'll try to reach him after whatever I think he's done with the county commission meeting.
Well, thank you. That was a nice
Good
letter to
news.
receive. I like that. Okay, pest control.
Excuse me. I'll have a bid for both of them, hopefully by next meeting. Because the advance is up by the 31st. They weren't gonna be able to come out, so we told them that we need 15th and we need it before that, so.
Okay. Pueblo Nuevo.
Was this the ordinance thing?
Yep.
All right, last council meeting, I was requested to prepare something that would basically eliminate or restrict, not restrict, but expand the areas in which liquor could be sold, so to eliminate the problem that was being run into as far as Nuevo's location to the Methodist Church. And we added some provisions related to drinking establishments because you regulate everything but drinking establishments. So I added cleaned up some language related to retailers. But so there's some new definitions for drinking establishment, a definition for retailer that's added. And then you had restrictions that were different for cereal malt beverages as far as locations, and then for your alcoholic beverages restrictions. And I did not mirror the language simply because I didn't want to rewrite both Article 2 and Article 3, but I eliminated churches on the restrictions for both cereal malt beverages and churches for the restrictions on the business regulations for alcoholic beverages. It still restricts schools. Yeah.
John, under Article 5, Section 2, the license fee, I see that's $600.
Did I get that wrong? I think I added that in there without thinking about it. What is it currently on everything else? And it's biennial. Or that may have been language I pulled off of something else. But we can amend that to whatever number you guys want.
Right. Yeah.
Where are you at?
License
Well, they
fee.
collect sales tax. They pay liquor tax. Do we have to have a $600, $500 fee to?
No, you don't have to have any fee. It was just, you charge everybody else a fee is why I put the fee provision in there.
We charge beer garden, $200
What do we?
The beer garden?
What's the fee associated on that?
For the Jubilee?
For the, yeah,
I think it's cereal malt beverage license, right?
right.
Yeah, it's just $25, I think. Well,
It's
I guess
different
maybe you guys need to, I need the approval. I think in the past they've just charged the $25. I don't know if their fee was waived or how it was done.
How long does that paperwork take
Well, because
in this
that-
office to do that license?
Well, this time it took a little while because we did it and then we needed approval from the council.
No, I mean, just like, as far as 600 seems absurd to me, I'd say something more of what it takes the girls in here to take care of it
Because
hour-wise.
this would be our fee.
Retailer would charge $150 per calendar year. This would be every 2 years, so you could do $300 or $150. I don't care.
I'd be back to the 300 since it's every two.
Clubs
Since we're
are
doing
100. As long as this doesn't have to business, my book was okay.
I'm okay with everything there, except for that.
Yeah, and I thought about leaving it blank. I just put it on.
Right.
I have under. See, the occupational tax is 600 in Article 4.
Maybe that's when we got it.
The club is $200.
Okay, see, some of this stuff doesn't ever get updated.
You know, I don't see a problem with what the location is wanting it right now. I don't see it's gonna be a problem because they mainly serve food. There's gonna be people in there drinking. Probably not gonna be late hours here and leave until 9. But if you totally do away with it, then you're gonna have a building that may sell beer till, what, midnight, 2 o'clock, right beside a church,
I just
possibly.
passed a law this day, the legislature did, that you can now start serving liquor at 6 o'clock in the morning.
That's a good breakfast, isn't it? I mean, Nobody's gonna be at the church at that time of night either,
Sure,
you
sure.
know? It's-
But, yeah, the only issues I have is maybe there, there's gonna be some people that roam outside, which they probably shouldn't be, but if you're,
It would be an issue if you're talking about cereal malt beverage, because you guys have, and I don't know how this happened, but you have a way for them to come and eliminate restrictions if you pass a resolution for cereal malt beverages, but they're wanting to sell liquor.
I mean, the point of liquor by the drink was because they're gonna do away with the cereal malt beverages, you thought, so that's why I'm pushing for trying to go ahead and take care of it now.
The state is redoing its entire tax structure because of it.
That's why I'd like to handle it now.
Thoughts?
say
I'd
we-
still like to have a full council before a big decision like that's made.
And then there's one other thing, this might cause some problems, and I don't know if this is just an error that Jamie or the person that runs the internet, but the, Article 4 had two different, business hours of sale. And I know we passed and allowed for Sunday sales, it was like one section didn't get eliminated online. So what it is it's got the business regulations on here which allow for Sunday sales, but that's just because it's a renumbering of that article. You're not now passing Sunday sales, you've already done that.
Right.
And I just think, so that's why I have one is hereby repealed in its entirety, and then I renumbered new section 3404. It's not a new section, it's just really just a renumbering.
Are these state laws?
They're permissible state laws. I mean, you're allowed to adopt that. You don't have to. You can be restricted.
Or you
But
can-
that is state language that allows it. That's why it's fine, written fine.
So you eliminated Yom Kippur, all of those, so you didn't put them in.
No, we can, but.
We can put in
we
Yom
can put
Kippur,
it- that is-
Hanukkah, and
Those restrictions are.
Ramadan,
are state law. You cannot decide to sell on Christmas.
you can't.
The city cannot decide to sell on Christmas, but you can be more restricted than that. No, I was not picking and choosing holidays. That's the question.
John, is there something that we could potentially, I know council last time was talking about how they don't want to be seen as putting this through underneath the community's nose. Is there a way to say something, maybe a brief in the paper?
You could do
that
it on the
says,
utility bill. I mean, you could see if somebody will write an article. It was
Right,
nice when
you
we
know.
had somebody actually writing those types of articles.
But I mean, even when we're gonna change something, we have to post a little something and it says, come in here for the full proposed
Cherry
change.
Nation has been dead for almost 100 years. Let's move into the 21st century.
You know,
Regardless, how can we make this public to people so that we're not looking like we're trying to pass it under their nose?
you can put the proposal on the area. I mean, you can do it. There's no restrictions on it.
Okay.
You can-
That's all I'm saying.
It's
We
public
brought-
information.
We had it brought up 2 weeks ago at the
Right,
last
but if
meeting.
they don't know this is going, when they look at this, it's posted on the internet, it says ordinance number 1052-18, they don't know what the hell that is. And we need to be doing the right thing for the people, because I guarantee you, every woman in my church is gonna come up to me, and I'm gonna hear all about it, and everybody else is too. So we need to be fair to our community. Yes, they have the right to show up to every single meeting, but a lot of them don't wanna come here because there aren't enough chairs. So what I'm saying is letting people know that we're doing our job by also informing them as well. So if we can go the extra step, we don't have to,
But we
there's
should.
been people that have had concerns. This isn't my thought, this is concerns of council last meeting. Can we potentially do that?
Put it in your monthly newsletter,
You
put
can
it
do
on your
whatever you
bill.
want.
So that's what I was asking. Do we have restrictions? What can we do?
Do you want to, we can do this one of two ways. We can go ahead and amend what you have in front of you to eliminate or remove or reduce or whatever that, the fee, okay? And then the amended document can be provided to the public. We can at least take that step if you want to take that step.
I changed the fee to 200.
It would require a motion.
As far as the, under section 2, article
Yeah,
5,
fees up.
$600 every 2 years.
change that.
What do we wanna do?
Since you feed 200, 100 a year is reasonable.
So that is two, I thought it was just
200, 200.
Yeah,
I entertain a
200.
motion.
Yeah. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, Christie and Bryant, to change Article 5, Section 2, amount to 200 biennial. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed, 4-0.
One of the other things that was passed today is they're now allowing, or will allow, fill it yourself beer.
Yeah,
So that's kind of a, I don't know,
self-service taps.
self-service taps, and I don't know how that works.
I'm opening them.
Who wants to pour their own beer? Okay.
Be like Coca-Cola at the shortstop.
Moving on to handbook update. Is that for me?
Are you good with me going over what?
What did I say about Sunday nights? I sat down to look at it, and she hadn't attached it. Oh, she's talking about the handbook.
Yeah.
I sent her an email thanking her for the night off. So I have not looked at it.
Okay.
So, but all right,
Our
the department,
proposed updates, you've saw me some down.
I got it today.
Okay.
Have the department heads looked at it?
I
That's my
sat
next
down with
suggestion.
Adam and Jeff both
Prior to the committee's changes.
after.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay, you didn't tell me that.
The one thing I want to talk about is the police pay. They didn't really propose, they wanted to confirm, I guess. So when we changed that, it was, the police department was getting, like, their holiday pay is time and a half if they are actually working the holiday. And then every other officer gets the 8 hours. But they were looking at it being, they get the 8 hours, but then they get time and a half, so it'd be like double time and a half. And no, that's the way they took it.
The way
Well,
we
they did. I'm sorry.
perceive,
I'm
the
sorry.
way we perceive the manual at the top says, everybody that works for the city on a that doesn't work, but works for the city gets 8 hours. And then below that, it continues to say, police department, if you work on that day, you get overtime. So we took it as you get 8 hours and you get overtime.
Okay, okay. So
The way the
some kind of
policy
restricted
book read.
language would be- Okay.
So we wanna know
So I wanted to get that verified.
if that's how we're supposed to take that.
I'll
It-
just have to look at that.
Yeah,
That-
it-
was
I
that
mean,
the
it was
only
time-
question on it?
I mean, yeah. My other question is, what, like, and I guess I don't know if I need to bring this to the committee, but we have a chief of police that works on holidays, but he's not able to get time and a half, so,
He's salaried.
correct. But he's also working on holidays, so,
Yeah, that's just the policies. So does all council members, was it in their packet?
no.
Okay, why don't we just submit it to all council members and then kind of all
Go
come together
over
at once?
those changes.
If I see anything, then when you submit it, I'll kind of give my yay or nay or whatever.
Okay.
I believe salaried positions and chief positions and all of those take you out of the overtime call.
Yeah, they were in it for like 2 weeks.
That was before my time.
I mean,
And I don't
we
know,
can-
there was only a moratorium placed on that. I don't know if they decided to enact that rule or not.
We can put policy into place that we can do something for our supervisors if they do have to. It's all about if we won't, I mean, yeah, salaried positions, whatever, but I think it comes into the fact that we require these guys to be out 24/7. Well, sometimes salaried people have to work, I get that, but, is it okay to go ahead and say, I'm staying home because you guys can get overtime, I'm gonna spend time with my family?
My
Whole
thought is,
policy decision.
once council looks at it, if you want to make proposals to amend certain sections of it, then let Jamie know. And then, if we could, say, there's gonna be so people know ahead of time that there's gonna be a proposal to amend a certain section and in which way. And then we can vote to amend those, and if the amendments pass, then we can just adopt the handbook as amended, and we don't have to then review it again.
Anything else on the end of it? Moving on from old business to new business, we've already taken care of ordinance 1052-18. Certified building inspector.
I put that on there. I know with these housing violations that we've been going over, I mean, we don't really have a certified building inspector. And I know Jeff's hands are tied at times, and he I might be speaking out of turn, but I know we've run into times where he might not feel like he's adequate for it, you know? So I just actually brought this up to maybe see your guys' thoughts on moving forward, because if we're wanting some of these things done, I feel like maybe having someone certified that has the knowledge moving forward would be beneficial. I mean, because there's things that need to be looked at that, I mean, he's not certified to be doing that stuff, so.
I mean, unless it's obvious that a house has issues, I mean, roofs caving in and that kind of thing, I'm gonna be very hesitant to allow you guys to move forward on some of the things.
I don't think we should hire somebody. I mean, it's pretty, those houses that, if you need to have somebody just to look at it in detail, I don't wanna be messing with our community like that. I mean, it's pretty obvious houses that have a hole in the roof or windows out. I just don't think we should spend the money on it personally.
The only one time that this became an issue is when we were having problems with the old Methodist church, and the council at that point told me to talk to Sid, and for them to do a structural analysis to see whether it needed to be torn down, it's like $1,200 or something like that when I talked to them. And so, no, we just didn't do anything. So if it's that kind of thing where we're thinking that a building needs to be condemned, but if Jeff, by looking at it, and you guys by looking at it, can't figure out whether there's an issue with it, then probably it's not worth going through with it. You just, because you're right, if you get sued, you're gonna end up in district court with me needing to hire an expert to defend your position.
I got a call the other night from the chief of police about some wiring on a house,
I have that.
and if a building inspector would have inspected it, they would have shut it down. The city does not have the right to shut it down once it gets past the disconnect on the meter. It should have been shut down, and I have this happen weekly by people that think they know electricity and they don't. And some of the building things that I've seen, the city has code, has building code, they have electric code, they have a sewer and a water code, but we have no way to enforce it. I don't have the time to enforce it, but it does need to be enforced. It does, and I'm sorry if I'm stepping on somebody's toes, but I've seen too many things go on here over the last 30 years that should have not been allowed. And we're letting them go every day because we cannot control them. We do not have somebody certified to walk in and look at it. Guy called me the other day on a new garage down here, wanted me to inspect the garage. I said, I can't, it's past the meter. Pam and I argued on the phone for 5 minutes. I said, Pam, I cannot go on the property and inspect it, it's past the meter.
Well, and you can't.
City does have a code.
You
but
can't
we
take on that responsibility anyways. You can't, if you said it's okay and.
No. You know, if you're certified, you can, but I can't. But we allow it. We allow any Jake Leg that comes in here that wants to get insurance to do whatever happens. And let his insurance company swallow it. And
So the reason I brought
some of it
this up-
fails, some of it doesn't.
Is because Doris and I have been in communication with 112 South Prairie. I believe she already sent this letter to him. She took a few pictures and I obtained a few of what Jeff's talking about. It looks as if the electrical wires are being held together by a rope.
And it's like looking at these houses that you guys want updated, you know, the ones on Second Street and those. I don't have the authority to walk inside that house and see if that house is fit to live in.
I mean, what you have the authority to do is walk down the street and see if broken windows.
That's all I can see. If it's stripped on the inside and I can't see it, sure, it's livable. But we had one of those renters tell us in here the other day, and all the girls were in here, that he didn't have any heat all winter. That he was heating with electric heater because his landlord didn't put a furnace in. That's not livable.
I mean, you just, with a city this size, you just kind of make do. You certainly don't want to repeal those ordinances because the fact that they're on the book has an effect, but you just kind of make do with the resources you have. And I mean, that with, you know, for example, with that Toots property, I mean, that had a basement full of water. I mean, there was
Sure, yeah, well, it's obvious.
issues with it there, but I mean, if it didn't have those issues, there weren't that kind of health concerns,
Right.
you know, I don't know.
Might have pretty curtains hanging on the windows, but the inside of it might be termite ridden, you know? There might not be any floor in it.
So is there some way that if we have case-by-case basis like this, that we can contract with someone to come in and we've got a list of what we want done?
Other cities.
What can we do?
Other cities do that, they have somebody that they just use on a part-time basis. You know, I'll give an example, is there was a Kyle, which is down near Oklahoma, had somebody build a pole shed that was probably, I wanna say 15 feet in height. You didn't know how this thing was standing, and it started to lean. And it was going to fall, it was gonna fall across the property line, but the only way the city had to deal with that is to hire somebody to come in and look at it and say, yeah, this thing's not gonna stand for very long in order to move forward to have the thing moved. And they ended up with dueling engineers, and the other guy's engineer admitted that it wasn't built correctly, wasn't built structurally. So we have codes. What code do we have adopted?
We have National Building, National Electric Code, plumbing and plumbing code too.
Are all current in those?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So we have codes that people have to follow, and so it's just a, determination as to whether those codes are followed. But Jeff doesn't have, and I've brought this up to council before, Jeff doesn't have the background. I'm not trying to
No, it's,
put it
I
down, he
know.
just doesn't. He's not trained to handle this guy. I couldn't call him to court other than to testify about the physical condition of the house as he saw it from the street.
And where we have photos like this, this is where you would put that on those lists for these people to come in and check it out
I
for
have
us.
no idea.
We had a renter that was gonna give us pictures that he'd been working on the inside of these other houses, but until we see them, if they got pretty curtains on the windows, yeah, they're ready to move into. I can't say anything else,
Yeah.
because I can't walk past the sidewalk.
Council against looking into somebody that we could contract to get a list. Jeff could come up with a list, whatever it is, every month or
I
something.
think you need an outside person to look at this stuff before you qualify it as being livable.
And really, it would be Dolores, if she's gonna continue to do it or whatever, would really present that stuff in that form to
Okay.
to this engineer, who would then make a recommendation to me or make a recommendation to council.
Anybody against looking into that process so that we can contract with somebody to.
If we can
to work
contract, if we
with
can contract
that?
somebody on a case-by-case basis, let's go ahead and do that.
John, if we do hire or contract with him, what are his rights to, or the city's rights to go into these properties?
We had that issue with Toots, is that if they're not going to allow access, then what you do is you basically seek an injunction from the district court, which prohibits them from denying you access.
Okay.
Yeah, and no, it wasn't Toots. Who did we do that on? Because they ended up complying. They're from Texas.
So you can get a court order to
Yeah,
enter?
most of the time they don't even respond to them, and you just get the order then, and basically the court just says you have the authority to access the
So
property.
you really need court authority then?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she goes up on the property sometimes, which I don't necessarily have a problem with her doing what she
Better
does.
go
I don't wanna go
inside and
inside. I think one time she was able to take pictures from the front porch and see this house.
She went inside of a couple of them when I went with her, but that's beside the point. You don't deny doors, anything.
Who are we tasking with that?
I
To look
I
into
think the
this
cost
process.
of this should be assessed to property owner.
It is. You can't get sued on the property tax rules.
Could we just get both Jeff and Jamie to work together and see if we can find someone on that? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'll see if I can find anybody that's qualified inspector.
I mean, something like this, I mean, the city can
Yeah.
take care of, and the car and stuff, but
It's those extra photos that concerns me most.
Jeff, how would you suggest that contractors be, to keep up the code is, would you have a suggestion so we don't have,
Well, there's gonna have to be a foreman inspection there somewhere, there should be.
There should
I
be.
think, you know. If you've taken a job in good faith, then you ought to meet the expectations of the homeowner. But, you know, without, like John said, and we're not big enough to do it, I've worked under inspectors, you know, at Pratt and Great Bend both, but we're not big enough to have them, but they do stop a lot of shady work. Things that shouldn't be done. I mean, there's just, you know, I know quite a few of them, I've been doing this a long time, but I'm not qualified. I don't have a certificate to walk in and say, no, you shouldn't be doing that, or you can't do that, you know? But, you know, the city will have to stand behind whoever they hire to set the teeth in on whatever goes on.
practically, so as far as, if you're gonna put in a fence, they're gonna walk on your properties. I mean, it's not that they're prohibiting you from putting a fence in the right of way or easement. They wanna make sure where you're gonna put that first pole, and they come out and they look at where you're gonna put the first pole.
Oh, I do that. I do that here, sure. Yeah. That's part of the zoning.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have Jamie and Jeff work together on getting that process started so we can figure out what we're gonna do with it. I'd entertain a motion to take a 2-minute recess for the clerk and myself and whoever else that needs to either leave or take a restroom break.
So
Before we go into these.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second to adjourn. Yeah. Recess for 2 minutes to reconvene at 9:09. All in favor?
It just gets warmer.
Started the process of trying to figure out.
Better run for that one here.
Friday. Trying to get more people to dress up.
Well, you go in the closet.
you look
Holy Toledo.
The wind is slowing down.
I was getting low on battery. I was going to have to see if I could pull a recess because I got to switch batteries.
Oh, man.
I'm down to 30 minutes on the chip. You think this ain't going to go more than 30 minutes? What's left on the
Well,
agenda?
we've got one 10-minute and one 5-minute, so 15 minutes.
Okay, so I only got 30 minutes
Probably
left on
say
the
about
chip.
20, 25 minutes,
Okay, that'll run close. I better change the chip too.
maybe. Yeah.
At the high school.
some pretty interesting things together. I don't know that.
Don't worry, I'll go ahead and change
I
it.
liked them. I went down to Rocky Bell and Chris one day. Clear with Richard Waitstrom from the Kinsey area.
Okay.
Put some ideas together.
Yeah.
GMD5 hasn't adopted any of those. The people I talked to doing, Darrell being one of them on GMD5 order, cautiously optimistic.
I'm good for another 2.5 hours now, so you
Okay. I should have went.
Yeah, he's 50.
Is Jeff in,
I should have said
I'm
5
sure.
minutes.
Out there, tell them we're back in session, please. Thank you.
I should have said 4 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Not 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't know how many.
Everybody made a beeline for it.
It's going to be critical, because it could conceivably make 10 to 15 million out of the area annually in worst case scenario.
Meeting was called back to order a minute ago here. There's no other business. I'd entertain a motion to move into executive session to 10 minutes for the city council to recess into executive session to discuss individual employees' performance pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter, exception to include mayor, council, city attorney, city clerk.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Or reconvene at 9:20, 9:21.
9:21.
Should have put that in there, sorry. It's 9:21, call the meeting back to order.
I'd like to make a motion to give Jamie Getty, our city clerk, a raise from 2006 to 2106.
A motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Brian Christie to move Jamie Getty from 2006 to 2106. It's a raise of $1. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Carries 3-0. You're welcome.
Well deserved, Jamie.
Okay, moving on. Next executive session. It's the same thing, correct? I'd entertain a motion to move into executive session for 5 minutes for the city council. Oh, yeah, to recess in executive, discuss individual employees' performance pursuant to the non-elected personnel matter exception to include mayor, council, city attorney, city superintendent, and what's David's
Streets
title?
and Parks, Fred. Streets and Parks.
Supervisor.
Do you need me?
Huh?
Do you need me?
Doesn't make any difference. You can go if you want to.
To include city clerk. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Brian Christie will come back at 9:28. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? 3-0. Call the meeting back to order at 9:28, and I would go ahead and entertain a motion to move employee Stephen Sheets from 1482 to 1550. It was recommended 1525. I'd say 1550. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Anybody?
Second.
Motion and a second on the table. Any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Carries 3-0.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, we know you will too.
With no other business, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Brian Christie, any other discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Carries 3-0. Meeting is adjourned.